Hey everyone, welcome back to Divinely Disruptive. Super excited to have our new guest here, Lala. She is one of my dearest friends and she's about to have her baby pretty soon. Yay. So I'm excited. She's never been on my podcast and I kind of already warned her. We're going to get pretty real and we're going to have a conversation that I know we need to have just so we can, bond and also catch up on life. And I just have a feeling a lot of people want to hear your story. And I know you've inspired me even in the few months that I got to hang out with you. I just feel like you're so resilient. You're so beautiful. And even as a first-time mom to be, just you carry yourself so gracefully. And, the other week when we got to really hang out just one-on-one, I feel like I got to know you a little bit deeper. And it just really made me respect you more. And it also made me not feel alone on this journey. For those that haven't seen the first episode, I pretty much had a meltdown, but, it made me realize a lot of us are probably having a meltdown. A lot of us are probably behind closed doors, literally breaking down mentally. And you made me feel safe. Like you made me feel safe to be vulnerable and to just hear you as you hear me. And I'm excited to have this moment for you. So yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself. And I can't wait to kind of hear like what you thought when I first met you or what you thought about me when you first met me and just share your story.
Oh, well, thank you for that. That is so sweet. Well, my name is Lalena. Everyone usually knows me by Lala because no one's gonna remember Lalena. I tell them and they're like, huh? And I'm like, Lala's fine. But I am originally from Los Angeles. I moved to Vegas like maybe a year and like a few months. So I have not been here that long. And I know you are not originally from Vegas either. So the moving to Vegas struggle.
Yep.
But what I thought when I first met you, so it's so funny because I'm really big on manifestation. And I was just like, I had, things going for me career-wise and like modeling gigs, career, that kind of path out in LA. And so when I came out here to Vegas, I was like, I need to start over and I need to start networking. And I'm really big on making my own network and my own connections because I just feel like if I make them myself, no one can take that from me. Yeah. So I remember someone was talking to me about the name Hardin and I was like, what is that? Yeah. I'm not into, I don't smoke, I'm not into it, but I just know that it was a good way to network and meet other people. So I was like, how can I get Hardin's attention? And you had reached out and was like, hi, would you like to be part of the influencer team, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, wow, that sounds great. Like, sounds super fun. And so then when I met you in person, I was like, wow, this woman is strong. She is powerful and she is intimidating. But I love it. But she is so genuine and she is so real. And I felt like that was really, really, really hard to find living in Vegas. And when you were speaking to me, you weren't speaking to me like this is like a business meeting. You were speaking to me like, hey, I could see a potential friendship growing from here. And so I felt that. And then already, not to get into signs, but you were like, I'm a Capricorn. And I was like, what? I am a Capricorn. Yeah. So, and so I think from there, and then we just kept a constant connection. And then I think the moment that I had told you that I was pregnant, because you were inviting me to events and I was like, well, I can't drink at those events. I haven't really told anyone. I haven't really announced it. So when I told you, and to see your initial raw reaction and to hear you get emotional and vulnerable over the phone when I told you, I was like, wow, this person really cares about me and cares about my well-being. And this is someone who I want to create a genuine friendship with.
I'm like, don't cry. No, but just, it's amazing too, when you lean into your intuition, you lean into your gut. And I've never met another, fierce Asian American on top of that, being a Capricorn and being spiritual and being strong. And my mom, she was super strict, but I remember she would always give me nuggets of wisdom. And she's like, think of your friendships as we get older like a mirror, right? Not only do you attract what you are, but you're literally looking at a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, again, I'm flattering myself because I think you're hot and a hot mama to be. But no, really, when I look at you, I see a part of me and it excites me. It makes me emotional. But I think that's what makes me so highly intuitive with your emotions too. I know that sounds funny, but just even if we look good, even if we look put together, I can sense the deeper emotion, whether it's emotions of joy, emotions of exhaustion, anxiety. I can literally sense that in you, but I feel like God and beyond, there's no accident in just like even the timing we met.
Mm-hmm.
And just even sitting here right now, I just love that whether we've seen each other, a week ago or months ago, it feels just so nice, right? To just, we talked about this, to share space, right? We don't always have to be clubbing, going out, partying. Of course, that's so fun, but to just sit and share space and feel warmth and comfort and acknowledgement. And then, like you said, just authentic care. We are lacking that in the world, especially, living in Vegas. So, if you don't mind sharing, tell us a little bit more also kind of, the jobs you had and then the hustle you had up till this point of about to give birth. I would love to hear that because I'm sure so many people might see like, how does she do it? She must have an easy life. She looks like, mini Asian Kim Kardashian, but really it's like, I've seen you grind. I've seen you put in the work. So you deserve this time to rest and recover and focus on, being a mom. But tell us a little too about just like that hustle, because you were very unexpected. And I love the 2 jobs you had, at least for the most part. Mm-hmm. But tell us a little bit about kind of like your hustle when you did move to Vegas and, how you got to a place of, a financial place where you can also have a home and build this family, because I want to know, how do you do it? What did you do?
So I like just working in general. I come from, my mom being a single mother and raising me. So I think watching her work ethic really pushed me, rubbed off on me. So I wanted to implement that into my own life. Yeah. So I started working at a very, very, very young age, like 15. I don't even think I was allowed to work, but I was working.
Yeah, child labor, right? You're like, it's okay, we Asian.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. It's okay, sweatshops, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I started working really, really, really young, and I had so many jobs, but working, multiple jobs at one time was not my first rodeo when I moved to Vegas. I actually am used to working multiple jobs. It is something that I've literally kind of always done since I was super young. And again, rubbed off on me because my mom was in the same category, watched her do it. So I was like, oh, okay, I should have 2 jobs at all times. Yeah. This is normal.
Right. Yep.
When in reality, people usually just have 1 job.
Yeah.
But, I started working a lot in Los Angeles. So, going to college, I had just like your average retail job, and I would always have something on the side. I never did not have something on the side going on to bring in extra cash. So, I went to college to be a fashion stylist, fashion designer. I know another reason we have that in common. I know, very similar to you. And so while I was working retail, I would have styling gigs on the side. So I just grew that so much. And it got to the point where I was a celebrity stylist out there. So I got to, style for the game. I got to style for a few of like the Jenner's friendship circle. So just got super connected out there. But I was doing that freelancing for a while, and that can get a little bit exhausting.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised. So you thought about going into fashion, and then you were a stylist, and then you got to, be styling for the game and Jenner's friend circle. That's incredible. Now, silly question. What was like the most humbling experience, or what kind of life lessons did you learn in that? Because I feel like you can learn something from every job, every side hustle. If you had like a takeaway, what would you say was like a good takeaway of helping clients of like an elite status? Like, did you feel intimidated, or were the people more humble than you thought?
It's interesting. I would say both. I would say I've met really cool people where they were very welcoming, very, you know, sweet, very nice. And then I also had my mix of people where they just felt entitled. Like, you can't talk to me directly, but you can talk to my assistant, and that's how you can communicate. Or don't look me directly in the eyes. Or like just wild things like that. So I guess a little bit of both, but thankfully, more than not, I got more of the nicer side of people.
That's awesome.
So that was pretty cool.
What a cool experience. Okay, now that you're in Vegas, would you go back into that? I know that you're very talented in many ways, but would you possibly tap into it? Because I know Vegas and LA, it's a different type of vibe. But could you see yourself maybe down the road, or even for your baby?
To tap on that, Vegas and LA, 100% different vibe.
Yes.
Like super different vibe.
Yes.
But I thought about it when I came out here. I was like, can I get back into styling? Because don't get me wrong, I love fashion design. Always wanted to have my own clothing brand, but I was like, can I do that out here? I felt like it's more of a Los Angeles based thing. Yeah. And here the vibe is just so different. I was like, I have to approach something different. I have to do a new business, a new venture, something. So I'm still trying to figure that out. Yeah. What I want to get into. I would love to continue to style, but I just don't think styling is really too big here, or needed, I should say. Yeah. But I would, eventually love to have a clothing brand, but specifically a men's streetwear clothing brand.
That. And from a woman's perspective.
That's why I love the concept of it so much more.
I have noticed the few times your man does look really good. I know you definitely had a part.
That is me dressing him.
Like the photo shoot that we did. To toe. I had a feeling it was all you. He's like, I'm here. You give me what I need to wear, but I'm just here. But I could see you have a good eye, and I like it.
Oh, thanks.
Now, speaking of Vegas, LA, I know a lot of viewers and listeners, they maybe will move to Vegas at some point, or live in Vegas and they've transitioned from, West Coast, East Coast. How was your experience moving to this city, aside from like the awesome friends you've met like me? How was that transition for you? Because I know for me, it wasn't as smooth as I thought. Like in some areas, it was pretty good. And then in certain areas like friendships and finding good girlfriends who will just like have those deep talks right away. I've noticed, coming from Seattle, Oregon, Cali, it just wasn't an easy vibe when it came to that part. Like the hustle, the grind, the girls being all pretty, being out in the scene, like that part I would say is easy. But like for in-depth conversation, I've learned you don't just go to a club, or you don't go to a bar or brunch where you're like, hey, tell me about your life purpose, right? Like, tell me about your goals. They're probably looking at you like, how about we take a shot, right?
Yes.
But how has that transition been in the beginning till now? And what kind of advice could you give for people who think about moving to Vegas, or they just moved to Vegas and they're having a hard time making friends?
Well, first of all, the transition itself was shitty. I hated it. Like, let's just be honest here. Moving to Vegas, the idea of it while I was still living in Los Angeles, I was like, oh, it sounds great. Like, I'm looking for just a new beginning, a new surrounding to elevate myself. And so when I finally got here, it was like, I hate it. Yeah. And again, like, before all the Vegas people come for me, all the Vegas locals come for me because they're so strongly about, Vegas, and I understand that. But it was really hard to transition just because I just felt like it wasn't very welcoming. And for example, Los Angeles is so diverse. We have people from all over the world that move to Los Angeles. So when someone moves to LA, we're kind of just like, hey, how's it going? Like, welcome. Do your own thing. I do my own thing. Peace out. Right. When I moved to Vegas, it was like, ew, you're from LA. Ew, you're from California. Why are you here? Move back. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm sorry, like I'm here to start a new beginning, like a new beginning. I'm not trying to tread on anyone's waters, but like I'm just here to do me. Why does it concern you so much, you know?
Yeah.
So that is what made the transition so hard. And I think the one piece of advice I could give to anyone that does want to move here is not to let people's, I guess, not opinion, just because you're from California, you know, affect you. And I felt like hearing it once or twice, I was like, psh, whatever. But hearing it so often from people is what made it so hard, and just how people were just not so welcoming here is what made it so difficult. So the one piece of advice I could say is just ignore all the negativity around you, and to just focus on what you came to do, whether that was, you know, succeed in a new path, or whether it was to start a family. Just focus on whatever you moved here for, and let that drive you all the way.
Yeah. No, and that's really good, because I've noticed maybe territorial is also a good word to explain kind of what it's like to not be from the city and move. And I've noticed even in the social scene, I don't know about you, but I've noticed people who are from here, for example, or girls that already have a tribe or a clique, I've noticed they're very protective and territorial, at least in my experience. And it's not easy getting into circles and places. And again, sometimes you'll get lucky and hit the jackpot like us, but I think we both understood what it's like to be new. So we at least had an open mind when we met. It wasn't like, what are you doing in my turf, or what are you doing in my city? You know, like go back. It's like, whoa. We can all share this moment. You know, there's enough place, like space for us. And I've noticed sometimes when I do go out, I love networking, but I also don't care to force relationships or fake a friendship if we're just not connecting on a deeper level. So I've learned to also, you know, set those healthy boundaries. Back to what you're sharing, just like, do you, if people have comments, like, do you, don't let them control you. So I know for me right now, I'm in a season of setting strong boundaries, emotional boundaries, because we can't live our lives based off the direction people give us, especially when we never ask them for direction.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, thank you for your 2 cents. Don't care.
Exactly. So, that's how you have to approach these people sometimes.
Yeah. Now, speaking of, you know, Vegas, tell me a little bit more about just kind of, you know, this might be a little personal, but how you feel building a family here, how you feel raising a family in this city, and also me not being a mother, but curious about motherhood. Are you excited? Are you anxious? I would love to hear just like your heart about, you know, this chapter you're in, because you could give birth any moment, you know? So if I leave, you know, there's a hospital right here. But,
I know, right?
But I'm like literally waiting, and I can't wait to be an auntie. But I would love to know just from your heart, you know, sister to sister, Capricorn to Capricorn, how you feel about, you know, giving birth, but also how you feel about raising a family specifically in Vegas.
So with the whole pregnancy thing, before I get into that, I'm going to get super like raw with you about pregnancy in general.
Yeah.
I always loved the idea of a family. I was like, I want to be a mom one day. I want to have kids one day. But I didn't actually see it happening for me. I thought it was going to be that aunt that like traveled and just didn't ever have kids. Loved the idea of it, but didn't have kids. So when I found out that, you know, we were pregnant, I was like, this is not real. I looked at the test. I'm like, this is not happening. But it was like a shock, not like anything else, but just like pure shock. So I did have to think about that. Like, I'm going to be raising, you know, my family, our family here in Las Vegas. And my initial reaction was like, I don't want to do that. I want to take the baby back to Los Angeles and raise, you know, our baby in Los Angeles. But then I was like, wait, I'm kind of contradicting right now because I'm becoming that, I guess, negative, you know, Vegas vibe that I got in the beginning and was like, don't come here. And it just wasn't fair. So I was like, well, my spouse, he is born and raised Las Vegas. And what is wrong with having our baby, born and raised. Las Vegas too. Eventually we do want to move somewhere like later down the road, but
just make sure you take us with me or with you, okay?
Right?
I'm like, I finally found you, and I'm like, okay, well, as long as I'm going with you.
So the idea in the beginning was hard for me to grasp, like, do I want to raise my child here in Las Vegas? But I was like, well, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I moved here for a reason.
Right.
So what's wrong with me raising, or, you know, him and I raising our child here?
Yeah.
So there's that. Vegas is still very, very new to me. I haven't even been here a full 2 years. So I don't even know what to expect raising a baby here. I will say I'm glad our hospital is like 5 minutes from our house.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Because if anything happens, it's just literally like right there.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. Am I nervous? 1,000%. I'm so nervous. I just feel like motherhood's a different world.
Yeah.
And
even watching you, like, just, it's so trippy because even just watching you, looking at you, I'm like, yeah, you're like shifting into a whole ass woman. I think I told you that. I'm like, you were always a woman and beautiful, but you're like a whole ass woman, as in including the ability to be a mother. I feel like you are more ready than you think you are. And I know you always remind me, but I'm not there yet to receive that comment. But you already have that spirit in you. And you know, when you were saying you always thought about being a traveling auntie and like boss lady, independent, that's what I still thought. But when I look at you, watch you, and just experience you in this chapter, it's very inspiring in the most realist, rawest way. Because you're handling it as if you've been here before.
Oh,
yeah.
thanks.
Like even you showing up as you could potentially give birth any moment, like that speaks so much about you, because you are, yes, shifting yourself for this child, but you're still doing you. You're still doing the things that you want to do within reason, of course. So I want to celebrate you, you know, just taking time, because next time you're on the podcast, you're going to have your child and you're going to be so healthy and you are going to be full in mom mode. So I'm excited to have the next episode of you being an actual mom.
Oh,
so this is like out of body experience for me, you know, just watching you. But you know, even having the few interactions I did with your man, like you mentioned, he's born and raised here. Even just meeting his mom for a moment, I feel like it really comes down to, you know, the circle you're in, the people around you, aunties, uncles, mentors. That ultimately is what defines your household and the way your child will develop. And so I say that to say, I know you enough where you're going to be mindful of like the people you bring in and the energy you invite in your house, especially around your child. And
100%.
you know, even though rent doubled for us, I'm still here because I literally wanted to be near you. That is actually one of the reasons why, you know, my husband and I, we decided to stay here is, gosh, like, I know you were a godsend and we needed you. Don't make me cry now, okay? But so it's very mutual. I hope you know that, right? So even in your moments of unknown and fear, I can just sense it in you. Have courage and joy, knowing that you literally have two people where you didn't even have to ask, but we're volunteering, like, cool.
I appreciate
it with you. Like, hey, Jane, I need to take a shit. I'm having diarrhea. Great. I'll see you in a minute. You need a diaper. No judgment though, right? So it's like, we are eager and we are excited to be there. And I believe in good karma is you've already been, you know, here for us in ways that you don't even realize. So, you know, if you have moments where it's like, God, Jane and Nick, they're so nice, or why are they so there? It's like you and Jesse, even in your own realness, that alone, you're being there for us, because we're not your typical couple. You know, we've been married for 7 years. We grew up in the church, like Catholic Christian, but as you know, we're all about a relationship with God, a relationship with a higher power. We don't judge or make people feel left out. So in the way that we're finding our groove and our spiritual groove, like, you just make us feel also safe and unjudged. So just, I want you to know, no matter what you go through and will go through, we are not here to judge you. Like, we are here to literally just be like a comfort zone where you can, you know, talk to us, cry, vent, literally take a nap, and, you know, we'll watch the kid, or you go on a date night, we'll watch the kid, you know, keep the cameras so I don't let the baby fall asleep on me. But I'm so excited. Like, I know this sounds weird, but even in your lowest moments, I know postpartum is a real thing. Have you experienced any of that yet? Or do you see signs of it or not yet?
So, you know, I feel like with being a first-time mom, I've heard every single story about being a mom from the moment you're pregnant to the moment you deliver and you're in labor to the moment you have, if you experience postpartum, and none of it, you know, you can prepare for it, number one, and number two, every woman is different, so not every woman is going to have the same experience. But I, like, if you were to pull up my Google search, it would be so embarrassing, but so ridiculous, because like just the questions that you have, because you're gonna deliver a whole tiny human that literally relies on you, and that is so scary to think of. So I try not to think about it too much, because then I get really anxious and then like I can't function. But I have heard some pretty scary postpartum stories, and I've also heard some really great postpartum stories. And again, every woman experiences it completely different, and postpartum is actually something very scary, or but I feel like I'm more scared of that than labor, as odd as that is to say, just because of the stories that I've heard and how severe it can get for some women. And I think the reason why postpartum, I guess, sadness, postpartum depression scares me the most is because I come from a background already of you know, previous having, you know, depression problems and super deep emotions like that. So I'm just like, I don't want it to affect me, but you know, I also have Jesse in my ear, like, if you don't think about it, it won't happen. But it's like so easy to tell someone like, hey, just be happy. Well, I would love to be happy, but if I'm sad right now, I'm sad. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But again, I'm gonna come into it very headstrong as much as possible, so that it doesn't affect me. Because if I'm being like super, you know, deep with you about postpartum, I've heard of like women not even wanting to touch their own baby because that's how bad postpartum can get, like not wanting to touch their own baby, not wanting to even be around their own baby, to the point where like women don't even want to be here on earth anymore, just because postpartum can affect them so deeply like that. And it's just it's scary to hear, because it's such a common thing that I feel like a lot of women do actually go through is postpartum depression. Man,
no, I asked that because again, we've all heard stories, right? It's like you can Google search, YouTube search, anything, and we both know anytime you do that, you're gonna get the worst of the worst and the best of the best, right? But one thing that I know I've told you too is to each their own, right? And I feel like the good news is, you know, you shared some deep things, so thank you for that. I just want you to know, I think as long as we are real with ourselves, which you are, acknowledging our natural tendencies, right? I know that that will only help us be more armored and prepared. And it's almost like, okay, we're going through a season of spiritual war or war with ourselves. But I say that in a lightful way, because you can now prepare yourself. Like, okay, if I go to mental war and I hate myself or I hate my body, just giving you examples, what tools can I bring? So when you're faced with that, it's like, okay, like talking to yourself, I know that if I'm going through depression or I'm detaching from my child, okay, I remember if this happens, then I can bring these tools. But just being armored, right? That way you're not blindsided. And then I will also be prepared to be on call. So I say this very carefully and respectfully, but just when you're having a low, maybe you and I can create a nonverbal communication, like an emoji, where you're like, okay, level 1 to 10, you know, that way you don't have to share too much and dig yourself in a hole or trigger yourself to a deep, darker place, but more so, hey, Jane, today I'm feeling this emoji. Then it'll alert me like, okay, today's pretty bad. I need to go and bring her brownies, cookies, or whatever you're craving. Or maybe you'll have days where you're totally good. But regardless, I want to be prepared to be there for you. And I know that, you know, if the tables were turned, I know that you would do that for me. Not I think. I already know, right?
Yes.
That's why I get emotional when I look at you, because I'm like, I know you would. But yeah, just like, I think highly intuitive empaths like us, we can truly sense like as if we were you, right? Like you can sense being me and I can sense being you. So again, just have faith. I know that you and I also, not to get too far on a tangent, but I know you and I also talked about just faith, you know, whether it's God, higher power, whether it's going to church, whether we learn certain things as a kid. But I hope, you know, like God is on your side. And I say that from more of a spiritual standpoint too, not so much religious, but like a higher power is watching over you. A higher power is watching over us. And, you know, even this very moment, like your baby's on a podcast right now, right? Like this moment right now is trippy. And one day your baby's going to grow up and be like, wow, mom, that you are incredible. Like even when you had me in your tummy, you came here and did a podcast and like you're sharing your story. And especially as a woman, you know, like your daughter's going to look up to you like, wow, look at what mommy did. You know, she hustled, she went through all that. She was scared to have me. And of course, the kid's not going to know when they're so young. But I promise you, as they become developed, especially as a teenager, everyone needs like a strong Korean auntie, because I'm going to love her so disciplined, but with such tough love, and, you know, give her the soft, nurturing side when needed, but also be firm in what's not okay, including, you know, negative thoughts and thinking that people can control you. Like, I'm going to let that angel know, like, no, just like mommy and auntie, we went through this and this is why we're going to protect you, but not shelter you, right? Because, you know, you and I can both probably agree, like we are the way that we are also because of a strong mother. And, you know, my mom raised pretty much 4 kids, mostly on her own as well. So growing up, I'm like, God, my mom didn't even show any emotion. And, you know, I've had the blessing to meet your mother, and she's incredible, enthusiastic, crazy, emotional, right?
Wild.
And I remember when I met her, I'm like, wow, that love she has for you is so beautiful. And again, not to say anyone's perfect, but for what she was given and what she could have done for you, I really feel like even the moments I've met her, she loves you so much. And when I met her at the baby shower, we connected, and she's like, I got to put you on my favorites, you know, speed dial. I'm like, anytime, mom, I got you. So even that, like, I just hope, you know, no matter what you go through, my love for you extends all the way down to your man, to your mom, and whoever else I get to meet, your family, your nephews, your nieces, your grandmas. Like, that's the type of love that your daughter's going to be around. And so, again, I got off on a deep tangent there, but it's like, ultimately, you know, God and a higher power provides, right? So all we have to do is trust, manifest, but also have faith that we deserve community. We deserve love. And even in your darkest days, like, to know that you deserve to have a beautiful, loving community that's going to be there. Because think about how many people are first-time moms, or, you know, had a kid and literally didn't have anyone.
Oh yeah, I've heard plenty of those stories too, and I'm just like, I commend those women so much, because I'm like, you guys did not have any help. Yeah, you guys did. And I feel like that's more so much more common in at least my mom, like her upbringing. She really did not have, you know, her parents around. Yeah. So to hear that, and to hear how she raised me, because mind you, my mom had me when she was 15 years old. Like, can you imagine a 15-year-old girl giving birth to a child when she's a child herself? Yeah. So to know that I have the support that she didn't have is very, what's the word I'm looking for? I have a ton of pregnancy brain.
No, it's okay.
But to know that I have the support that she didn't have is very comforting. And just makes me something that I'm so grateful and so blessed to have. So because of that, and kind of to touch base a little bit on the postpartum thing, I feel like I can kind of avoid it, and like you said, like be armored and ready to fight it if it does want to try to come my way. Because of the support system that I already have. And then especially you, Jane, like so thankful. And I know I was telling you like off podcast, off camera, how hard it is to make a connection, a deep, genuine, like a real connection with someone that doesn't involve the club, because Vegas, come on, Vegas is nightlife, Vegas is clubbing, Vegas is, like you said,
it's all about the look, the Instagram, the photos, you know. I'm guilty of it, but sometimes I'm like, I need substance and depth,
right? Like you said, Vegas is, hey, do you want a shot? Don't tell me about your personal life. Do you want a drink?
Right, just numb the pain, we'll be good.
So to have that connection, I'm so grateful for, and because of that, I feel like I can conquer, you know, if postpartum depression does want to come towards me, or just any kind of sadness. And I know a lot of first-time moms, it's very overwhelming to be a mother in general, right? Whether you're a first-time mom, second-time mom, so forth. Yeah. So to have the support system that I already do have, and baby's not even here yet, it says a lot, and I'm so appreciative of it.
Yes, of course. And you know, if you literally ask my husband, I'm always like, okay, I gotta, you know, plan my day, I gotta plan my week, so I gotta carve out some time to see Lala, you know, minimum once a week. But just, I hope you know, this is kind of like a flaw in me. I'm really good at networking, meeting people, and again, it's the business side of me, but I do need to get better at being a better friend. And what is so wild is when I met you, you didn't make it hard to be a friend to you. And then you didn't make it hard for me to be a good friend to you. So I feel like a lot of it, we've talked about maturing. You know, I'm in my 30s, and I know you're, you know, getting into that stage at some point soon, but you're very mature. And I feel like when you're mature, you're not going to click right away with people. So, you know, we've acknowledged it's not easy to make a lot of friends in Vegas or make friends in general, but I also feel like we evolve very quick and we move quicker than perhaps the average. I know maybe we just develop things, we learn things so quickly so we can evolve closer to certain people. And I know you and I have talked, you know, prior to this about also growing out of friendships, right? Not to say, hey, we're not shitting on them like, oh, you sucked. No, we have different phases and seasons in which friendships, even romantic relationships, it's like, okay, it served a purpose then, but who am I now and who am I becoming? And, you know, what type of people do I want to be around? And I don't think that's selfish to also check your inner circle, check your friendship circle. Again, people can call you, check in once in a while, but I feel like for us in this divine moment, we really needed each other without even realizing. And now the more we live and learn and see how Vegas moves, it's like, wow, this is really rare.
I just feel like it's so rare to have, like, again, and I know I was venting to you about it, I was venting to Jessie about it. Sometimes you just want to call someone and be like, hey, can we just hang out on my couch? Yes. You know, and again, Vegas culture is like, hey, do you want to hang out and go to a club? Yes. Like, we have a table. Like, don't get me wrong, that's always fun. Yes. It's fun, yes, but is this something I want to do like every weekend, 24/7? Absolutely not. No. Yeah. So it's nice to have that and to find that in someone, to be like, yeah, I have no makeup on, my hair, haven't brushed it all day, so can we just go grab food and eat it at the house?
Yep. No, I love that. And I remember when I invited myself over, well, I try to ask, obviously, but I was like, I want to come over. I really like you. But just, you know, even in friendships, like, you make me nervous, and I say that in the best way, because you make me feel actively vulnerable. Right. And I don't feel that with a lot of people. Just like when you go on a blind date or you go on a date with a crush, it's like you get butterflies, you feel weird because you want to impress them and you want to get close to them. And I've learned just through time and maturity, girlfriends and friendships should kind of be the same, right? Like, do you want to be around this person? Do they make you feel butterflies in the sense of like, wow, like they care about me, you know? Because the last thing we want is to be around people that are numb and make us feel numb. And again, you know, the club and whatnot is a great place. However, it's not always the best place to process life. You can't even hear each other. The music's loud and you're just pounding shots, you know? Yes. So again, I think it's a great way to numb our pain and to almost avoid what we're going through. And sometimes we need that. But I think like we talked about, as we mature though, we just want authentic, almost like silent bonding time.
Yes.
Or there's not a lot of distractions. We could be staring out the wall or watching Netflix, but sometimes we need this beautiful quiet time where we're just sitting and we can process, we can feel and speak about it versus, oh, this is uncomfortable, or hey, Jane, I'm getting a little emotional. It's like, cool, let's unravel it. Like, let's unpack it today. Why not? So again, like, you've just made it so easy to be your friend, and it's fun because this is also new to me, right? Like, even my husband, I'm like, I'm gonna go to Lala's house. He's like, really? Okay, have fun. I'm like, whoa, like, I'm not used to that. I feel like I'm a people pleaser, and I know you and I also talked about that, is sometimes you put everyone before yourself, but sometimes it's toxic and it's unhealthy, because you and I both know when we just put everybody first, it's like we don't even get to check in with ourselves. Right. It's like we're so busy checking in with everybody else. It's like, wait a minute, am I okay? Like, did I have a moment to, process how I'm doing? And I feel like you and I did a good job acknowledging that we're go-getters, people pleasers, but I love that we are also so intentional, being like, hey, how are you? What's going on? I'm going to share my story, but I want to hear your story as well, right? Now, again, without getting like too far off the deep end, when you had some darker moments or just like tough emotional, spiritual moments, I would love to know how you overcame them or how you continue to overcome, because I know in my first episode, it was unexpectedly emotional and, a little dark, but I didn't realize like how sad I've been these days, what a funk I've been in these days, and just like putting on a face because I need to, just be a jolly good fellow to everybody. And I was telling my husband, I'm like, dude, this podcast in the most unexpected way is one of the tools that I'm actually healing and coping and discovering how I'm really feeling.
It's like self-therapy.
It is. So it's kind of like selfish and selfless at the same time, because here I am sharing emotions, but I'm inviting you and whoever is on the podcast to also share theirs. So again, share whatever you would like to share, but I would love to know how you personally have coped with that, because it comes and goes. And again, I can just sense like a lot of people listening and watching, they don't really know what to do. They don't know where to go. And sometimes we don't have friends or people we can call. So like, how did you deal with it when you just felt alone?
I do want to say social media doesn't help with coping with anything at all. I feel like social media makes it 10 times worse, if I'm being honest. Like, if I'm feeling like shit and I happen to jump on social media, I feel like shittier right after.
Totally.
And I feel like because of that, social media has a great way of sugarcoating things. And I feel like it also has a way of not just sugarcoating things, but making it like seem like it's a bad thing to feel sad, making it a bad thing to be depressed, making it a bad thing to, just feel any kind of down, because people are like, we don't want to see that. We just want to see like your success. We just want to see you winning. We just want to see like the finish line, but we don't want to see the struggle or whatever it is you're going through at the moment, because we don't want to be sad too. And I feel like because of that, I just feel like we just feel more alone, and is kind of what pushes us to be more alone and to be more quiet about how we're feeling. And at least for me, that's kind of what was happening. Or so to kind of backtrack, my Instagram, I used to be very open on my Instagram. Like, I used to post like, if I've had people been following me since like I started my Instagram like in 2015.
Wow.
So when people DM me like, hey, I've been following you and like to see you go from here to here, like it's crazy. And I'm just like, first of all, I'm honored. Like, wow, thank you for following my journey. But I used to be very open, and I used to share everything from like even me crying, and I'm like, I can't believe I cried on Instagram. Yeah. Like, who is this person? Yeah. But I used to be very, very raw and very vulnerable, and I just realized privacy is such a beautiful thing. But handling things alone and going through everything alone was very difficult, because again, like, people are like, you shouldn't share too much. Don't share too much. And I agree. A lot shouldn't be shared on social media, but I feel like at the same time, we need to be very real with ourselves. And sometimes we do need to see that, because we need to understand that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to have a shit day. It's okay to be mad. And I feel like social media has kind of changed our brains not to feel that, to kind of be numb to it. Yeah. I feel like I'm going on a tangent on social media.
No, hey, listen, it's taken over our life if we're not aware. So I think it's a good topic to talk about.
But how I dealt with everything, it has not been easy. I will say that. And I know everyone has a past. Everyone has a dark past. Everyone has something traumatic that's happened in their childhood. And when I tell you, Jane, my life could literally be written into a book. It really could be. And some of the things that I have gone through, some people don't believe, because they're just like, no way. Like, how did you become this person you are today compared to what you went through back then? Like, there's no way. That's not possible. And I'm like, well, I'm here and I'm alive. So but I just had a very traumatic, very life-changing, very hard, very difficult, very, I will say, very sad childhood, with some of the things that I have been through and I have not shared with very many people. And one day I would love to be an open book and be like, this is everything that I went through and here I am today. So if I went through this, you can too. But for a long time, I did not realize that I was hiding everything under the rug. And again, this is where social media comes in, because we just hide everything. We're sad. Oh, let's hide it with something. We're not having a good day. Let's just cover it up with something. So I had no idea I was doing that for a very long time, until I got into my last relationship. So not my current, my last. And I went down a very dark spiral. And I'll be completely open and honest. I became a very, I'll just say it. We hear about abusive relationships, and a lot of the time the woman is the one being abused. But you don't realize when you hide things for so long, it will come back and it will bite you in the ass. I don't care how old you are. So things that were affecting me when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 started to affect me when I was like 23, 24, 25 in my last relationship. And I became an abusive person to my spouse. And I did not realize that. Abuse is never okay in either role, male or female. And I became a very dark person. And I was like, who is this person? Why am I becoming this person? This is not me. And then fast forward, got out of that relationship, of course, got into my current relationship that I'm in now. And those dark thoughts started to come back until Jesse was like, you need to go to therapy. Have you ever thought about therapy? And I was like, therapy's stupid. I literally was like, therapy is ridiculous. I tried it when I was living in Los Angeles and I was like, it didn't work for me. So I'm not going to do it. Like, that's ridiculous. Why am I going to open up to someone who doesn't know me and thinks that they're going to fix me? Like, really? So I hated the idea of therapy. And so when you have a solid person in your life that pushes you to be better, like Jesse did, it worked. He pushed me and pushed me. He's like, you're going to therapy. That's awesome. I don't care if you have to go through 5 different therapists until you find someone. Find someone. So there's nothing wrong with therapy too. And I feel like therapy has this bad stigma to it. They just I feel like people hear therapy and they're just like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? And it's like, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I just want to feel better. I want to fix what I need to heal that I can't heal on my own. So I went to therapy, and shout out to my therapist. She unraveled so many things
Jeez.
that I did not know. Just like, I'm a very visual person. So just imagine like this rug in the middle of the room. And I had no idea that this rug was piled to the ceiling. And she was just like, okay, that's fine. This rug is built to the ceiling, but we're just going to uncover it and pull one thing out at a time until that rug starts to decrease. And we did that.
That's
every session was just filled with tears and anger, but happiness at the same time. And so she helped me a lot. So I don't think I could have gotten where I am like mentally stable without therapy. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have those moments where I'm like, let's not think like that. Let's not be negative Nancy, Lala.
Yes.
So therapy helped me a ton.
Man. No, and just to add really quickly, this is why I'm like quiet. I'm like, you're like talking to my soul. I'm literally looking at a mirror. I'm like, this is awkward, because Nick has literally said something similar, you know, like, hey, Jane, I know you're trying to pretend you're all fine, but like, you need help. Because sometimes, again, maybe we can relate on this, but I have like dark anger, rage sometimes, where I'm like, what? Where did this come from? Exactly. Where I'm like, I hate you. And my husband's the most loyal, kind, patient man, like such a good person. And sometimes I'll like provoke him. Like I'll try to get like an emotion out of him. And I just turn into this like demon. And I'm thinking, what did he do? Why are you trying to pick on him? And then I find myself being a bully. I don't know if you've ever had those moments. Yes. And I'm like, get it together, Jane. Obviously, there's something you're feeling, something you're not processing, and you want to blame the closest person to you, which is your partner, especially when you live with them. And I've learned, you know, it's not healthy, but now I get what it means when people say you hurt the people you love the most, you hurt the people that are the closest to you. But it's kind of like, this sounds effed up, but that unconditional love, right? It's kind of like, well, I know they'll forgive me. Well, what if they didn't? So, you know, back to the idea of therapy, I'm so glad that, you know, you did it when you knew that like, maybe I should actually do this. And back to what you were sharing, to not be afraid of almost interviewing your therapist. Like, you can't expect the first person to meet be like, yep, she got me or he got me. And same with friendships, right? Like, as much as we want a friend, as much as we want a healthy friendship, who are we to like force that, right? Like, the next person better be a good friend, just like a therapist, right? It's like, oh, this one better be it. But I think, you know, once you find something or someone that is compatible and understands how to talk to you and how to, like you said, unravel things in a respectful way, allow you to cry and feel it, I feel like that's where you're clicking. And you know, this is why I started this podcast, just to add to everything, is for those that are maybe anti-church or anti-God or anti-religion or anti-therapy, to kind of shed a different perspective, to be like, whoa, like, we're not here to anti anything. It's more just, let's open up our heart. Let's open up our soul, right? If God, church, exercising, therapy, like, figure it out. Like, you have the freedom to find what works for you. Yes. So I think, again, you just sharing that, it's important. And part of, you know, having healthy friendships on top of therapy is, you know, the therapist gives you professional advice, right? Yes. And, you know, some of my favorite podcast hosts, they're like, hey, listen, we're having deep conversations that will be life altering, but we are not professionals, right? Like, you and I, we're not professional therapists. However, we are giving real advice, real life experience, real thoughts in real time. But by no means are we a mental doctor or an expert. Right. But I think it's about having a combination of professional help as well as personal friendships that have your back. Yes. And they can guide you through the journey with the tools that you have received through professional help. Right.
And the one thing that, you know, for anyone who's looking for therapy or had the same mindset I did, where I was like, therapy's stupid. Yeah. Someone once told me you need to treat therapy or finding a therapist like a relationship. If you did not like that current therapist, break up with them, find a new one, and keep searching until you find the right person. Man. And I love my therapist because like she would curse with me. She would like talk to me like how we're talking now. Like I can be very comfortable. She wasn't like, let me fix my glasses and write down that you need medicine. Right. I need to put you on meds. She was very raw with me. Like I felt so comfortable opening up to her so easily. Yeah. So yeah, therapy helped a great deal because again, like I said, I thought I was, you know, healing. I was like, cool. I went through that traumatic thing when I was 10 years old. Wow. Just kidding. It came and bit me in the ass when I was like 23, 24. And I was like, I didn't know this was possible. Right. And, you know, my therapist made me realize, well, because you didn't heal. You're so used to covering everything up that mentally and subconsciously you were like, oh, it's fixed. But in reality, it wasn't fixed. I wasn't healed. Yeah. So, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think I need to research more and find a new therapist because I feel like moving and, you know, the pandemic and just all the changes happening, it put me in a very bitter, frustrated season of life. And every therapist I interviewed, I feel bad, but I like pretty much ripped their head off, right? I'm kind of like, sometimes you don't know me. You don't know what I'm about. You're not getting me, right? So you're inspiring me to also, you know, get back on that journey because I did have somebody, but she was kind of repeating what I already knew versus somebody who would just be straight up. Because I know I can come off very intimidating, very aggressive sometimes, but it's also a defense mechanism, right? Like, you don't know me. Who do you think you are talking to me? And I feel like a lot of us do that even in real life, whether it's our job, whether it's friendship. We push people away when we need them the most. Yes. Right? So again, for you, you know, have you also been in a season where, well, you and I know the truth, but have you ever been in a season though, whether it's your man or friendship or family even, where you really did need them the most, but you would push them away to the point where they just didn't know how to help you?
Jane, I do that till this day.
Good thing I text your mama. Okay. I'm like, don't worry. I'm seeing Lala today.
No, that is actually my number one defense mechanism is I will push everybody away when I'm down, when I'm feeling crappy, when I'm having a bad day. And again, just like you said, you know, you'll push your husband away. They're the closest person to us. So Jesse gets, it's not right and it's not okay, but sometimes Jesse will get the shit and stick of it. And I will push him away because why? He's the first person closest to me.
And he's so sweet too. He's just like, are you hungry? F you, get out of my way.
Yeah. And it's so, especially when you're like hormonal right now with pregnancy. Yeah. In the beginning, he really, really got it just because like when you become pregnant, you're just like, here's emotions and here's you. And they just like threw it at you like dodgeball.
Yeah. You're like, you weren't ready.
Yeah. You're not ready for how much emotion you start to feel during pregnancy. But you can interview. I could step out of the room and you can interview any of my closest friends that know me. Yeah. They like inside and out, and they would be like, yes, Lala will seclude herself when she is having a hard time with life. Yeah. She will push everyone away and you will not hear from her. I'm just so used to saying like, you know, someone asking me, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm good. And, you know, deep down inside, I could be feeling 10,000 emotions and have 100 tabs open.
Yeah, for sure.
And thanks to therapy helped me realize why I do that and how often I do that and why that is my number one defense coping mechanism is to push everyone away. And the reason why I do that is just because, again, it all relates back to my childhood, seeing it around me, seeing how my family, or not my family, but like my mom was. Yeah. I just implemented it in my own life. I always thought like, hey, if I'm having a hard time, I know you're not going to get me. So let me go through it myself and let me figure it out myself. So that's why I'm not going to open up to you. That's why I'm going to push you away. Yeah. But it's not fair to the people who are trying to help us. Right. Because they're trying to make us feel better when all we want to do is push everyone away.
For sure. No, and I can definitely relate to that because, you know, the other week when I came over, I was like resisting, right? Like I wanted to be there for you, but at the same time, the control freak and the perfectionism and the ego-filled soul that I am sometimes, I'm like, oh, I'm a little drained. I had a hard day at work. I almost felt guilty, right? Even though you and I get each other and we know each other, I still was like, oh man, I just want to be there for you. But I remember you kind of nudging me like you were smart. You're like, well, come over whenever you want. I'll be home. And I'm like, dang it, you got me. Because sometimes when we're in that anxiety or like that pressure of like trying to figure it out when we're emotional and sad, it's like we didn't need somebody to make us feel more pressured, but more so like a relaxed approach. Like, hey, Jane, come over whenever you want. Or hey, Lala, the door's open whenever you decide to. I know you said you wanted to come over. I know you said you wanted to talk. Like, I know you wanted to see me. Come over when you want, right? So I feel like you and I naturally already were learning how to speak to each other and also be sensitive and mindful, like when we are low, to not make us feel pressured. Yes. Right? Like, you need to talk right now. You need to talk, you know, call me. I think when we're in our funk, it's like, there's already a lot going on, right? Just like pressure to get it together. So again, you are already teaching me how I need to treat you as well, because healthy friendships, you treat each other the way you want to be treated. Yes. So now I know as well, like if I hear you say, hey, I'm having a bad day, or I could just sense you're off today, not pressuring you, but inviting you. Yeah. Hey, when you're ready, the phone's next to me. Or hey, when you're ready, I'm in my car. You let me know when you're ready to have me over, or when you're ready to talk, right? But I think too, you know, you and I can speak about this because we're wired fairly similarly based off childhood issues as well. But to also nudge each other like, hey, it's okay, right? Because there's that voice that takes over like, no, they don't want to see that. They're going through their own stuff. They don't want to see that. But like to also nudge each other like, Lala, it's okay. I'm having a day too. Yes. Let's just sit. You want me to bring donuts? You want me to bring boba? Whatever you're craving. We don't even need to talk. Let's just eat and watch a show, but like we're sitting in it together.
I love that you said that, because I feel like that's also really hard to find in a friend. Is we don't need to sit and gossip. We don't need to sit and talk about anyone or anything bad or negative about anyone. We could just literally sit with our crappy days in silence with food. Yes. And I'm like content, because some people don't realize sometimes that's really all that you need. Because, and I've told you before, I'm not much of an opener. I don't open to very many people. Yeah. Again, you can interview my own best friends and they'll be like, Lala doesn't tell us anything unless we force that of her, or unless she's really going through it and she happens to just blurt it all out. But I don't open up to very many people. I usually am just like, I'm gonna write it out myself and I'll figure it out myself. But sometimes that's not always the healthiest way to handle things. Again, because then that rug starts to pile. But it's again, it's nice to sometimes just having a friend to just sit in silence with. Because sometimes that can just heal whatever shitty day you were having.
For sure. And again, I know that it was part of God's plan that you and I literally live 9 minutes away, like a few exits. Like, come on, you know, here are two random souls moved to Vegas, and not only did we connect on a deeper level, how hilarious is it that we also live fairly close, you know, in proximity. But, you know, I share that to say it's like a higher power is definitely on our side, no matter what we go through. And it's mutually so humbling to know like you are literally a call away, right?
Literally.
It's just so cool, right? And that even realistically, if you really needed me to show up at your house, you would. And same for me. If I was really having a moment, you could show up at my house, right? So even, you know, bringing it back to simple gratitude, like I'm so grateful that we're able to actually have the ability to physically see each other, not only call each other. And I feel like the pandemic and just those last 2 years, it really taught me also the importance of sharing physical space, right? Because even tapping on social media, tapping on even Zoom calls and video, like Of course, if you live in different states, cities, or countries, better than nothing. But we get to have it all. So that part just gives me joy. Like, even in my funks, I'm like, okay, it could be worse. There's people who've been where we're at, but had zero friends or zero people they could call or visit. Right? So I feel like the silver lining here is, even at the rock bottom, it's like you do have a friend one call away. And I know we also touched on not having family here, like blood family, right? Not to say that we can't create our own family that's not blood, but if you don't mind sharing briefly, how has it been just like doing life here without family? And then I know we already talked about raising a family in Vegas, but like more so not having your blood family. I know for some people it's not a big deal, but I know I'm in that same space where I don't have blood family in this town. How is that for you, and what keeps you grounded, motivated, and, you know, how do I say this? Like, how do you not lose yourself? Because it's easy to forget who you are when you're not around the people you grew up around, or the people that made sure, you know, they kept you accountable for not losing yourself.
So I was never really close to like my family. I mean, my immediate family, you know, my mom and my mom's sisters and my grandma, that's like my family, you know, and we're already scattered all over, you know. Some of them live in Seattle, Washington. Then, you know, you have my mom and my grandma who live on the Central Coast, and then you have me, you know. We've always been separated. So even when I was in LA, I never really was around my family. So I think the hardest part about being away from family is being away from my mom and my grandma, because my mom and my grandma are literally my best friends.
Yeah, they're
and
awesome.
Sisters.
Even I was vibing with your grandma. I'm like, go get it, girl. She's like, I've been nursing for 35 years. I'm like, you're my goals.
She's like, she forever wants to work. She's about to hit like, or she already is 77. And
she's got great hair, great skin. Dude, she exercises.
She goes to the gym every morning.
Oh my gosh.
Or if she can't go in the morning, because she has work overnight, she'll go right after work after like a 12-hour shift. I'm like, bro, you're like 77. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out on a date too. And I'm like, what?
My gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
My grandma is like, she is literal definition of like young soul, forever young.
Oh yeah. and I could tell you guys are like friends too, right? In the most respectful way. And I can imagine, like I said, I've only met them once in real life, but I can see and imagine how it is tough to just not be able to see them as often as you would love to, right? Because they're so near and dear to your heart. They've seen you grow, and they're just good people that have most definitely overcome a lot. I can just feel it, you know, just strong, fierce women. But I know that your mom will be in town and staying with you for a minute, right? Are you excited for that? I'll be on call, because I know sometimes it's like hate-love relationship, because I have a mom in Seattle. We definitely have, you know, how do I say it? We had a very toxically close dynamic growing up, like very controlling, and, you know, wanted me to be a certain way. And of course, she didn't know that it was affecting me negatively. But either way, there's like a lot of Asian culture, you and I know, like expectations, right?
Yes.
So
very
sometimes
high expectations.
I know for me, it's like, well, shoot, in a perfect world, I'd love to live with my mom or have my mom visit more often. But just right now, I'm in a finding myself moment. But are you excited, anxious to have your mom with you for a moment in time, like an extended period?
So, again, I'm the only child on my mom's side, at least. And it was always fun living with my mom, but I also moved out at a very early age. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17.
That's incredible.
So I was already used to being on my own. So being away from my mom and my grandma, I was closer to them in LA because I could drive to them.
Oh, nice.
But now here, like, they cannot, it's not an easy drive. It's like a 7-hour drive to get to me, as opposed to when I was in LA, it was like a 2.5-hour drive. So it was nice because I technically still had them nearby. But like you said, it's a love-hate relationship. Don't get me wrong. I love my mom. Love her to death. She's literally like, she is my everything. Literally my everything. And I'm so grateful because I will have some people approach us and be like, you are so lucky to have the relationship.
Oh, for sure. I love it.
And, you know, I'm so used to that I'm just like, it is not everyone's, you know, mom and daughter like that, you know?
Yeah.
But it's I'm very grateful to be told that. But at the same time, my mom is so used to having me as like her baby.
Right.
And her only baby.
Yeah.
And she's used to controlling a big portion of my life just because that's just who she is. She's like like a momager.
Yeah, for
almost,
sure.
You know. So, and she even makes jokes till this day. She's like, wait till I'm there for a month, you're gonna hate me after. And I'm just like, well, don't make me mad because I'm gonna be going through a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have her, but at the same time I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna be overwhelmed. I'm gonna have a crying baby. I'm gonna be running off of like negative hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So she knows like her boundaries because she was raising a child, you know, herself. I mean, she hasn't raised a child herself in 29 years, aka me. But she's like, I'm gonna make sure I know my space and give you space when you want it. So if you are like, Mom, you gotta go, I will go.
And intuitively, it's so trippy because when I met your mom, I really appreciated her passion and zest towards you. And that's like a feeling I've never had with my mom. But I could just sense, like you said, to this day, she's still your little nugget, right? Like she's still your mom, right? So in her eyes, I could just tell even at the baby shower, like, she was getting so emotional and I'm like, you're going to be fine, you know? And she's like, but that's my only baby, you know? So, you know, it's like that saying, don't put your eggs in one basket. But with you, she did, right? But that's honorable. Like with her, it's like, no, I'm giving Lala everything and all that I am. So again, I could see it going two ways. It could also backfire where you're like, Mom, I love you. Your intention is pure, but I need some space, right? But your mom's like, full force, I'm going in. It's like, okay, but I need a moment. But I remember telling her just intuitively, like, hey, if you need a break or you need a moment, like we could switch off or just text me if it's just getting too much or you want to go on a quick little walk. So I've already created this fun little buffer adventure between me, you, and your mom, because I think with everything and anything, sometimes repetition and just like too much of anything sometimes backfires. Right? Like, again, the intent is good. And I'm sure if I came over every day, yes, you say, oh, come over whenever you want. But I'm telling you, if you saw me 24/7, you'd be like, Jane, you're exhausting me. I don't want to talk about feelings. I'll be like, okay, well, I'll visit next week. But, you know, back to boundaries and honoring how we feel in our very moment in time. Like, it's your responsibility and job to validate and honor it, right? Like you wake up one morning and you're like, all right, today is not the day, you know, and sending out a text like, hey, Mom, I'm just not in a good mood today. And same with me, be like, hey, Jane, I love you. It's not you, but just today, I really don't want to see anyone. Right. Then it's like, okay, note taken. And maybe you could say, hey, you know, maybe tomorrow might be another day, but just right now, I can't. I'm drained. I can't sleep. I'm hungry. But adding cues where people on the outside looking in, you're still giving them signals. And again, with the proper words and communication, you're still letting us know, okay, then how can I help you? And part of that could be, hey, I just need some space. Great. So I can just intuitively sense for you, continue to communicate your needs. And the secret is your needs, not communicating your mom's needs, not communicating, oh, well, what do you think Jane needs? No, communicating your needs, and therefore we can properly help you in return.
Yes. And I think that's going to be the hardest thing for me is, like you said, communicating your own needs, because I forgot what I was watching. I think I was watching like a TikTok video. I don't know. TikTok's amazing. But it was like, we too often, when we're close to our parents, like the way that I'm close to my mom, we feel too guilty for saying, hey, I need space. Or we feel bad for whenever something bad happens to them. Like we feel guilty for it, but it's learning to detach from that and learning to feel our own feelings and learning that that's okay to do that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, people that love you, they're going to see through a situation. And so, you know, even your mom, she's literally had unconditional love for you up till, you know, all these beautiful years of life. So clearly, you know, she'll figure it out and make it work. And same for my husband and I. Like I've already told you, we want to be there, and we understand it's going to be a life-altering new emotional season. So we're not going to take it personal. But yeah, more importantly, I just wanted to take this time to just acknowledge you. Okay. I know this was a very unexpected, nice long podcast episode, but you know, just to wrap it up, I wanted to also just let you know you've been more than an amazing friend to me. And even in the short time that we've known each other, like we make it count. And I love that.
No.
So I just wanted you to know it's not you doing more for me. It's just whatever you've been and whatever you are, like that alone is just so precious to me. So just wanted to let you know that.
Aww.
Yeah. And thank you for taking time to be on the podcast. And,
of course,
you know, like it's awesome to know the next time you're here, you will be a full-on mom.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
She probably won't be with me. She'll be crying, but
it's all good.
I'll be here post delivery.
Yes. And what I like to do with all the guests is, what's your 3 lessons that you would tell your younger self? And how ironic that we talked about this, right? But if you could tell your younger self 3 life lessons, what would you share to her?
That's a good question.
You were not ready for that.
I was not ready for that. That's a deep question.
Okay, you better be ready.
If I could tell my younger self anything, the first one would definitely be not to worry so much. I feel like I take that with me till this day. I worry about every little thing. I can worry about something that's not even here yet. I worry about things that are a year from now. But not to worry so much and enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's number 1. Number 2 is I'd probably tell myself not to be so negative to myself, because I know I've told you this before, but sometimes we as human beings, we're so used to saying like, oh, you're a dumbass, like, oh, you fucked up this time, like, why did you do that? You wouldn't talk to your younger self like that. Or you wouldn't talk to a 4-year-old like that. That would be so abnormal, you know, so wrong. That would really literally mess up a 4-year-old, 10-year-old's mind. So stop talking to myself so negatively, number 2. And number 3, stop caring so much about other people's, not opinions, but I guess comparisons to myself, because I know I also have a tendency to be like, look at what they're doing at their age and look at where you are, you know what I mean? And that's also a negative way to think and speak to yourself. So that's definitely what I would tell my younger self.
Man, that's good. And I can still take away from those lessons. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for your time. And we'll make sure to link all her information down below so you can find her on Instagram. And she's one of my closest friends ever. So this is a very awesome moment. And until next time, make sure you protect your peace, stay positive, keep shining your light, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Of course.